You know, there are many things that I enjoy about my life, but one of those top things that I enjoy is reflection time, because that gives me perspective about where I am right now, how far I've traveled, and where I'm still going, right? Because sometimes we get so consumed about the disappointments of the things that we haven't done right now, and we feel like we are failing. But when I reflect, I start seeing the trajectory of my life, where it's headed, right? I start seeing that there's a certain direction that I've actually been taking, and this direction I'm still on, even though at the moment it feels like chaos, right? So, one of the things that I've realized during my reflection time is the fact that peace is not always the solution. And that's exactly what I want to talk to you about today. Peace is not the solution for everything. I am Pulaa Montz, your inner voice magnified. You know, as I've been reflecting, the one thing that I can't stop being grateful for is those seasons when I didn't have peace. Those seasons when I felt like I had a void in my soul, because it was because of that void that I sought after God. It was because of that void that I got intimate with God. I started asking God questions about my life, right? So it is important for us to realize that, peace is not always the solution. Sometimes unrest is exactly what we need, and that it is exactly what God uses in order to stir something in our souls, to shift us from the comfort that we have created for ourselves into the calling that He has on our lives. So we need to start understanding the seasons that we are in and how God operates in different seasons, right? So before we pray for peace, we need to take a step back and ask God, what season of life am I in? Why do I have such unrest? Is there a purpose to this unrest? So understand first why you have the unrest. And if you feel like this unrest, it is because of something that is destroying who you are, then you can start praying for peace. But sometimes when we take time and look at the situations that we are in and seek the lessons that are in those situations, then we will realize that actually praying the situation away is not quite a prayer we should be having, because there's something in this season, there's something in this moment, there's something in this difficult situation that God is doing in me, right? When I look at how I would sit in my office and think that there is something out there for me. There is something bigger and greater that I should be doing with my life. I don't believe this is it for me. I mean, I had a dream when I was younger because of how I was raised, to have a degree and get a job in a great company that had benefits. And I got that earlier on in my 20s. And I thought to myself, is this it rather? Is this what life is all about? God, are you done with me? Am I supposed to be, pursuing more and more salary in different companies? But I just felt in my spirit that that was not it for me. That was not what God intended for my life. So He gave me all of that dream in a short space of time, so that He could show me that beyond what I was dreaming, there was emptiness, right? So it was because of that emptiness, it was because of the discomfort that I took bold steps to resign from my job. At first, I resigned. I didn't know what I was doing. I went back to work, but eventually, when I resigned the second time, it is because I knew why. It was at that moment I understood why I had this unrest. I had this void in my spirit that God wouldn't take away. So it is important that if you have persistent unrest about a certain issue, Pray and ask God, why isn't He taking it away? Help me see why this thing is important to stay with me. I mean, you are a God of peace. God is the source of peace. So if we are praying to God to remove unrest out of our lives, and still years and years later you're still experiencing unrest because of that one situation, then know that it is because you are not learning the lessons that God has intended for you to learn in that moment. I always say that I found that most of the time our purpose comes from the most darkest and deepest seasons of our lives. Purpose comes from big wounds that we have experienced in our lives. And sometimes when you're going through those moments of unrest, they are causing you pain. That's where maybe you can look out for your calling. Maybe it is in that situation that keeps showing up in your life where you should be seeking peace. Find purpose in those moments. Ask God, is there a calling on my life? Is that why I have this unrest? If there is, Lord, then show me the calling. So instead of praying the unrest away, then you start changing your prayer. When you recognize the season that you're in, you will start asking God to reveal this calling that is attached to this unrest that you are experiencing. So I just wanted to find out, is there something that has been causing you unrest, and you've been praying and fasting about it, and yet the situation still seems like it's not going away and it's not even changing? Whatever you had, the feelings that you had about it when you started praying, you are still having those feelings, you are still having those emotions. It is still as painful as ever. Maybe it is time that you start asking God, is there a calling on my life that is attached to this thing that won't give me peace? Is there purpose to this difficult situation that you have kept me in? And you'll see that once you start praying in that way, things will start changing. God will start revealing things, and you will start celebrating the fact that God didn't take away that unrest when you were praying for it, right? You will start seeing value in why that unrest should be in your life in this season. So I just wanted to remind you, sometimes we have to embrace our unrest when we recognize the season that we are in. Peace is not always the solution. I am Pulaa Montz, your inner peace and purpose coach.